Alright everyone, sorry this review is so late. I've been in New York for the past week, but now I'm finally back home after the worst flight delays ever. Oh my god. But let's not talk about that. Instead, let's talk about this. Morbius. So Morbius is the third movie in Sony's Spider-Man-less Spider-Man cinematic universe, and that is simply that. Yeah, any Spider-Man Easter eggs you might have seen in the trailer, that was just blatant lying by Sony. There is nothing even remotely relating to Spider-Man anywhere in this movie. Well, okay, that's not entirely true, but it's not enough to matter. This takes place in the same universe as Sony's Venom movies, because it's that universe. Alright, you get the picture, let's move on. We have Jared Leto as Dr. Michael Morbius. He's a really brilliant, prize-winning doctor, but he has a rare blood disease, and he's running out of time, so he develops a cure by splicing his DNA with that of vampire bats, and somehow that gives him superhuman abilities, which really doesn't make any sense. And so yeah, I'm sure you've heard by now, this movie's just been raked through the coals. It's been called like one of the worst comic book movies in a long time. It's got what, like a 15% on Rotten Tomatoes right now? And I have to agree with that, because this movie, oh my god, this is a mess. And honestly, I'm not like mad. I'm not gonna like tear the movie apart like, oh, it always deserved to suck. Really, my overall feeling with this movie is just severe disappointment. I'm sad that this movie is just a wreck, and it's because it could have been really cool. I'll touch more on that later. Jared Leto as Dr. Michael Morbius, he's fine. I feel really bad for him at this point because he's a great actor. He's won an Oscar, and since then, he has been in some really good movies where he's acted very well. But then he did Suicide Squad, and people started giving him shit because comic book movie fans are very passionate. So now along comes Morbius, and we're like, okay, maybe this could be his chance for redemption in the eyes of comic book movie fans. But really, in this movie, you just don't ever care about Michael Morbius. The movie doesn't really give you any reason to. What you know about him from this movie is that he's a doctor, he's a scientist, he's kind of a dick, but from what I remember in my disclaimer that I saw this movie like 4 days ago, there's nothing really in his character to latch on to. He has a love interest, Martine Bancroft is the character's name, but she was hardly a character. For the life of me, I couldn't tell you what she's like as a person. I couldn't tell you her personality traits. I could tell you that she had some pretty corny, cheesy lines, but yeah, she and Jared Leto, no chemistry between the two actors. I didn't feel it, so I ended up not really giving a shit about her either. Matt Smith is in the movie. He plays Michael Morbius' surrogate brother, Milo, and he's actually a pretty big part of the movie, but who his character is and the story arc he goes through, that ends up being another problem with the movie. Because story-wise, it was bad. I am trying to be somewhat vague because I don't want to spoil it. So what I'll say is that his story arc is pretty cliche. You've seen it in other movies before, and you've seen it done better. It's not impressive really at all. Now again, this is Dr. Michael Morbius. This is a character that's been around in Marvel Comics since the 70s. I guess he's been an anti-hero, but I know him mostly for being a Spider-Man villain. But he has had his own stories, so I guess there are some good stories to be told there. So for this movie, where did it go wrong? I'll tell you where it went wrong. First of all, the biggest problem is the script, because the script, oh my god, just ay. I really do hate being harsh like this, which is why you see some hesitance coming out of me, but I just have to say now that the script, no pun intended, it sucked. Cause when I say that Morbius's powers don't make sense, I mean they absolutely do not make any sense whatsoever. He cures his condition with science, right? He splices his DNA with that of a vampire bat's. Alright, so he gets echolocation and super senses. Alright, I guess that makes about as much sense as being bitten by a radioactive spider and gaining superhuman strength and the ability to climb walls. Alright, fine, for the sake of fantasy, I can buy that. But then this movie shows that Morbius can straight up fly? That makes no sense whatsoever. Abilities of a bat or not, the human body it does not have the capability to fly. It's not like Morbius grew wings or anything. He didn't. So how is he flying? There's no logical or scientific explanation for it. And that might seem like a trivial gripe, but really it does illustrate how messy and sloppy the writing is throughout the movie. Because the writers, I'm sure they had no idea what they were doing. They were like, oh, it's fantasy. Fans will buy it. Because they don't really care about details. No, you're wrong. We do. The little details are what makes these worlds feel alive and real. That's what makes them feel cohesive, like, oh yeah, I totally buy it now. It makes sense, it clicks with me. With Morbius, I felt like that just wasn't there. Also, the pacing was terrible. This movie is like an hour and 44 minutes long or something like that, and you can tell when you're watching it, if you do watch it, that it was clearly edited down. Like, yeah, I do feel like it was supposed to be a little longer, but it feels like at a point the studio just stopped caring about this movie. Like, they were like, yeah, we know this movie sucks, we'll just release it and get it over with. Kind of like Fox was with the New Mutants. It actually felt a lot like that. And again, it's just a bummer because this movie could have been something really cool. I mean, a Spider-Man villain with the powers of a vampire. I feel like there is enough there to make for a really cool story, even without Spider-Man. Could have made it like Dracula or something, I don't know. I mean, were there some cool visual effects in this movie? Sure. There was one scene in particular where one character does something really cool and I said out loud, I was like, that's cool. Just visually, in concept, that was a cool thing that character just did. And that did happen a couple of times. I was like, alright, I am entertained by that. But eventually, these were just overpowered by the other many bad things about this movie. And besides, there were also some pretty shitty visual effects in this movie. Some of the action scenes, man, they go slow-mo for no reason, like Wonder Woman. And I still have the same complaint. It didn't work for me in Wonder Woman because the slow motion just does not make sense. Like, why are you doing that? Didn't work for me in Wonder Woman. Doesn't work for me now here in Morbius. And the CG during the slow-mo, yeah, look at that. You think that looks good? Well, I don't. Or at least it could look a lot better. And again, I'm just really bummed about this because this movie could have been really cool. There are decades of source material out there. In the comics, in the TV animated shows, in the games, whatever. This character has stuck around for a while in comics and lore for a reason. Because fans like him. Because there must have been some good stories out there. I personally don't know any, but I can guarantee you that there are Marvel fans who do. And so for this Morbius movie to be such a wreck, it just saddens me. Because there was potential. I know that for a fact. And this movie just wasted it all. That's just so sad to me. Even the music, the score wasn't that great. In fact, there were actually some points in this movie where, I shit you not, I was like, is that the theme from the Christopher Nolan Dark Knight trilogy? Seriously, you think I might be joking or exaggerating a little bit? I'm really not. There were a couple of points where the music, the underscore, it's not like someone in the movie was watching Batman, no. The score in the movie itself, I'm pretty sure it ripped off from Hans Zimmer's Dark Knight score. I'm not joking. So in the end, Morbius has to be the most disappointing movie based off a Marvel character I've seen in a long time. The script was terrible, the visual effects were so-so. Just the logic surrounding the entire plot made absolutely no sense, and that brings an entire movie down to the ground in the worst way. I've thought about this, like if you wait to stream this online and watch it like on Netflix or whatever, you'll probably still hate it. So for Morbius, I am really sad to say, don't go see this movie. Yeah, no musical rating. I cannot say it deserves one. Even the mid-credits scenes, there are a couple of mid-credits scenes, and just like the rest of the movie, they make no sense whatsoever. Just illogic to the 10th degree. At this point, I'm like, yeah, alright, Sony's Spider-Man cinematic universe, it should probably just die, cause they don't know what they're doing. I still have hopes for Kraven the Hunter and Madam Web, but it's probably blind hope at this point. I mean, I always hope a movie's gonna be good, but I guess we'll see what happens. So Morbius, have you seen it? If you have seen it, good for you, I like you. But what did you think about it? Whatever you think, go ahead and leave a comment. And of course, thank you for subscribing. Peace.